Global Insight News.
Today's Insight.
Luigi Mangione accused of murdering New York healthcare CEO.
But what does it mean? Who's involved? And how will it shape the world we live in? Join us as we break it all down and dive deeper than the surface. This is where facts meet clarity and you get the full story. You're watching Global Insight News, your source for the latest news, insights, and deep dive discussions.
Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. So you guys sent in, a bunch of articles about this. The murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare.
Look wild.
Wild story, right? It just grabbed the headlines. I mean, like, come on.
Of course. Yeah.
A high-profile executive shot dead outside a fancy Manhattan hotel.
That's crazy.
But, then there's more to it, right? Like, it's not just that. There's
It goes deeper.
so much more.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the suspect, this Luigi Mangione,
right.
he just adds a whole other layer.
Absolutely. This goes way beyond like a typical crime story, I mean, when you dig into the details about Mangione, what could be the motive here, the events that I guess led up to this murder.
Yeah.
It gives us a glimpse into some pretty big issues in America today, from healthcare, corporate power, even just like how easy it is to get your hands on weapons these days.
So let's start with like the basics. Can you kind of walk us through like the timeline, what happened?
Yeah, so Brian Thompson, he's 50 years old. He's the CEO of UnitedHealthcare.
Right.
And he was shot and killed last Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan.
Okay.
And it's worth noting that UnitedHealthcare was actually having this big investors meeting
at the hotel.
At the same time.
Okay.
So that's pretty intriguing.
I mean, yeah, it makes you wonder if it was like on purpose.
Yeah.
Like
the timing.
Yeah.
It definitely raises some questions.
Yeah.
But after the shooting, obviously, the police launched a huge manhunt, and then just a few days later, they arrested this 26-year-old guy, Luigi Mangione.
Okay.
At a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania? I mean, that's so random.
Right.
Like how?
It's almost hard to believe, but it was total coincidence.
Really?
Yeah. A customer at the McDonald's just happened to recognize Mangione from the news.
Oh, wow.
And told an employee who called the police.
Wow.
So, I mean, it wasn't like a tip to the FBI or anything.
Yeah.
It was just a random person seeing him while they were getting burger.
It's like fate or something.
Yeah. It really shows you how powerful media coverage can be.
Yeah.
And the role it plays in these investigations.
It's crazy how many other times that's probably happened, though, right?
Right.
Like where someone's like, oh, I think I recognize that person, and then doesn't do anything.
Yeah, pretty scary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got a high-profile murder and a random arrest.
At a McDonald's.
At a McDonald's.
Yeah.
But who is this guy? Who's this Luigi Mangione?
What do we know about him?
Well, on the surface, he seems like he came from a very privileged background.
Okay.
I mean, his family is super well-known in Maryland. They've been successful in real estate.
Wow.
I mean, one of his cousins is even a state legislator.
Oh, wow.
He went to fancy schools, graduated top of his class in high school, then went to UPenn. Okay. Ivy League.
So we're talking like he had every opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, at least on paper, he had tons of potential.
Yeah.
And after he graduated from UPenn, he worked as a data engineer in California. Mm. But then things kind of took a turn, it seems.
Okay.
He got into this pretty bad back injury.
Yeah.
And it seems like that really impacted his life.
The articles mentioned that he got like really isolated after that.
Yeah, and there are even some social media posts from friends who were worried because they hadn't heard from him in months.
Oh, wow.
So it seems like he was struggling with like social withdrawal
and
maybe even mental health challenges.
That's so sad.
Yeah. It really is.
But how does this all connect to Brian Thompson? Like, what could be the motive here?
Yeah. Well, this is where things get even more complicated.
Okay.
When they arrested Mangione, the police found a handwritten document on him that expressed what they called ill will.
Okay.
towards corporate America.
Okay. Well, that's pretty vague, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, was there anything more specific,
Right.
like connecting him to UnitedHealthcare or Thompson himself?
There are a few interesting details.
Okay.
So remember, Thompson was shot with a ghost gun.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Right, so this is a gun with no serial number.
Okay.
So it's pretty much impossible to trace.
Okay, can you explain, like, for those of us who don't know, like, what is a ghost gun exactly?
Yeah, so basically ghost guns, they can be assembled from kits or even 3D printed,
Wow.
which means they're getting easier and easier to get and harder to regulate.
Yeah.
In this case, the police think Mangione's gun might have actually been 3D printed,
Wow.
which, I mean, that adds a whole other layer.
Yeah, it's like technology, it's like changing crime in ways that, like, I don't even know if we fully understand yet, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But so how does this ghost gun connect Mangione to the murder?
Yeah.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The shell casings they found at the crime scene, they actually had words written on them.
What?
Yeah, they said deny, defend, and depose.
Hmm.
And investigators think these words could be a reference to what they call the 3Ds of insurance.
Okay.
So deny, defend, depose,
Uh-huh.
which are tactics that insurance companies like UnitedHealthcare
Oh, wow.
sometimes use to avoid paying patient claims.
So you're saying Mangione, like, his anger could have been aimed at, like, the whole healthcare system?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Stemming from his own experience with his back injury.
right. That's a very plausible
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah.
But it's also possible his anger was more specifically aimed at UnitedHealthcare.
Right.
Or even Thompson himself
Right.
as the CEO.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say for sure.
So it's like we've got this suspect from a really privileged background, but he seems to have, like, descended into
Right.
isolation and anger. Right. Maybe
Yeah.
fueled by this experience with the healthcare system.
Yeah. And then you add in this,
And then the ghost gun, right?
this whole element of the ghost gun.
Yeah.
It makes you think about technology
Right.
and its role in all of this.
Yeah.
It's a case that really makes you consider how individual circumstances
Right.
and bigger issues in society
Yeah.
are all connected.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what leads someone down a path like this? What role do these systems
Yeah.
and the pressures of modern life play?
Yeah.
I mean, these are big questions we'll keep exploring
Yeah.
as we go deeper into this story.
You've definitely given us a lot to think about already.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like we've just barely.
We're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before we move on, though, can you tell us a bit more about Mangione's arrest?
Sure.
What do we know about, like, the legal stuff so far?
Yeah. So, Mangione, he first appeared in a Pennsylvania court
Okay.
on charges of possessing an unlicensed firearm and some other related offenses.
Okay.
He seemed pretty calm during the hearing, but, it's clear this was just the beginning.
Right.
Then, shortly after, New York investigators charged him with murder
Okay.
and 4 other counts,
Oh, wow.
including firearms charges.
Okay. So what happens next? Is he going to be, like, extradited to New York to face those charges?
Yeah, that's the most likely scenario.
Okay.
Since the crime happened in New York,
Okay.
that's where he'll have to,
Yeah.
stand trial.
Yeah.
The extradition process can be kind of a pain, though.
Oh,
it can take a while
Yeah.
because it involves cooperation between the states
Right.
and their legal
Yeah.
systems.
Right.
Right.
So this
Or-
is just the beginning, right?
Yeah, I think this is just the first chapter
Yeah.
in what's going to be a long and complicated legal battle.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we
Wow.
dive into all the legal stuff,
Yeah.
I do want to just acknowledge, like, the human side of this whole tragedy.
Yeah, of course.
Brian Thompson's family and friends are going through something unimaginable right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a profound loss.
Yeah.
And we can only offer our
Our condolences.
deepest sympathies. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can't forget about Mangioni's family either.
Right.
Right. The article said they were shocked
Devastated. Yeah.
and devastated by this whole thing.
It's a good reminder that even in a case like this, there are real people
Yeah.
on all sides
Yeah.
who are deeply affected by this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I think we often get, like, so caught up in the crazy parts of a case like this.
Just sensational stuff.
Right, but
Yeah.
they're
Real lives at stake.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You've brought up some really, really good points.
Well, thank you.
I mean, we've covered, like, the basics of what happened.
The timeline, yeah.
Yeah, the backgrounds of both Thompson
Right.
and Mangione
Cards.
and like what's happened legally so far.
The initial proceedings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about, technology, the media, and just the human cost of this whole tragedy.
The impact.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But there's still so much to unpack.
Right.
I mean, in the next part, we're gonna go even deeper into Mangione's possible motives.
Okay.
And really explore like the bigger issues this case
Societal
brings
okay.
up.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm ready.
So stay tuned.
It's fascinating, trying to understand what could have led this guy, Mangione, to this point. Like, he seemingly had it all, right?
Right.
But something went wrong. Yeah, that's the question, right? Like, what pushes someone
Right.
with so much potential to this point?
And the articles really focus on
Yeah.
that back injury as a turning point.
Right.
I mean, before that, his life was, going up, up, up.
Right.
Prestigious education, good career.
Yeah.
And then afterward, boom, he withdraws.
Right.
Disappears from social media. His friends are worried.
Yeah, it just goes to show, like, you never really know
Right.
what someone's going through.
You never know what's happening beneath the surface.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even if they seem like they have it all.
Right. And it makes you think about, the pressure
Yeah.
to succeed, especially for a guy like Mangione,
Right.
who came from this high-achieving family.
Yeah.
Maybe all that success actually became a burden,
Yeah.
like creating these expectations he felt he couldn't live up to.
Especially after the injury.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe his whole identity was tied to his accomplishment.
Yeah.
And then the injury wasn't just physical pain.
Right.
It disrupted his whole sense of self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And so do you think that could have played into the anger towards corporate America?
I mean, that handwritten document
Yeah.
the police found, the one about corporations.
A will? Yeah.
Yeah, ill will. That's a key piece here.
Yeah.
We don't know the specifics from the articles, but even the general feeling,
Right.
it points to resentment.
Yeah. Deep.
Deep-seated resentment.
And do we know if that resentment was already there before the injury?
Right, like maybe he was already becoming disillusioned with the whole corporate world. I mean, he was working in Silicon Valley.
Right.
Which, we think of innovation, progress.
Yeah.
But it's also like cutthroat, burnout, just constant pursuit of profit.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Mangione, with his analytical mind, started seeing the cracks in the facade. And then, the back injury happens.
Right.
And his struggles with the healthcare system just,
It amplifies it all.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's experiencing the system firsthand.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy, the focus on profits over patients.
Right.
And that's where those words on the shell casing.
Yeah, the deny, defend, depose.
It becomes so powerful, right? It wasn't just abstract anger.
Yeah.
It was rooted in something specific.
Yeah.
A perceived injustice.
Right, like he was trying to expose something.
Exactly.
Right, but in such a tragic and violent way.
Yeah, it makes you think about his mental health.
Right.
Was his judgment impaired? Was it a desperate act?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard to know, but I mean, that's going to be huge.
Oh, for sure.
In the legal proceedings, right. His defense could argue
diminished capacity.
Right. Due to all this pain and disillusionment.
And that brings us to the ghost gun.
Right.
It's not just a weapon. It's symbolic.
Right. Of something bigger.
Right. Like the whole issue of accessibility of dangerous technology.
And the fact that it might have been 3D printed.
I know.
It's disturbing.
It really is.
It implies premeditation, technical skill.
Right. Was he radicalized online?
Right. Did he find instructions somewhere?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
The internet's a powerful tool for good and bad.
Right. A double-edged sword.
It can connect us to information, but also to, extremist ideas.
Yeah. Dangerous knowledge.
Exactly.
So it's this case is a perfect storm, right?
All right.
Individual struggles, societal issues.
You got it.
This guy's dealing with pain, mental health, disillusionment.
And at the same time, we have this rise of ghost guns.
Yeah.
Online radicalization.
And then a healthcare system that seems to prioritize
profits. It's a lot.
It really is.
It's a reminder that we live in a complex world
where
these issues collide in ways we don't fully understand.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes us confront these uncomfortable questions.
Yeah.
About responsibility, systemic failures,
the
consequences of anger and despair.
You've brought up some really, really good points.
Oh, thank you.
As we kind of move into the last part of our deep dive,
All right.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on like the legal challenges ahead and like what this case could mean.
The implications.
Yeah, for the future.
Ready.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like why this happened, the bigger picture,
Right.
but now I kind of want to like zoom in on the legal side of things.
Yeah, the legal landscape?
Yeah, because this is going to be like a fascinating case to watch,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
As it goes through the courts.
There are so many different ways this could go.
Right.
And the outcome could be, like, really significant.
Yeah.
Not just for Mangione, but for other cases like this.
Yeah. Where do you even like start with something this
Right.
complicated? What are the biggest legal challenges you see?
Well, the prosecution, they have to connect Mangione to the murder, right?
Yeah.
Like, directly.
Right, without it.
They need, like, rock-solid evidence.
So like placing him at the scene, the weapon,
Yeah, correct.
proving he meant to do it.
Yeah, it's crucial.
Okay, so those shell casings with the insurance terms,
Right.
the ill will document, those are going to be like key.
Oh, absolutely. They'll try to use that to show his state of mind,
Right.
that he had a reason to target Thompson.
But I mean, the defense could say, well, that doesn't prove he planned it.
Exactly. They'll challenge the relevance of
Right.
that evidence.
And what about the ghost gun?
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
The prosecution might say, look, he used an untraceable weapon. That shows he planned this.
Right.
But the defense could flip it, Talk about how easy these ghost guns are to get.
Right, like it's a societal problem, not just Mangione.
Exactly. Individual versus systemic.
Yeah.
Is he responsible
Yeah.
or is the system to blame?
Right, that's a big question, right?
Huge. Goes to the core of our legal system.
Yeah.
They might even try to say Mangione's a victim.
Really?
Yeah. Pushed to this by the injury, the corporate world, the easy access to guns.
Okay, and what about his mental state? Could that be like a main part of the defense?
Absolutely. They'll bring up the injury, the isolation, any mental health struggles.
Right.
Argue that those things clouded his judgment.
So they'll say he wasn't thinking straight.
Exactly. That he couldn't fully
The
understand,
consequences.
right, the gravity of his actions.
Right.
They might even say it was a mental break.
Wow.
That his actions were driven by, like, desperation, not rational thought.
So this trial, it could be like a landmark case,
It could be.
forcing us to rethink mental health responsibility.
How these individual and societal forces
Yeah.
collide.
It's a lot to think about,
It is?
and it's definitely not over.
No, not by a long shot.
As we wait for all this to play out, I think it's good to just, step back. Yeah, and consider the big question.
This isn't just a crime story. It's a reflection of, like, our anxieties
Yeah.
as a society.
Healthcare, corporate power, mental health, technology.
It is all connected.
Wow, this deep dive has really been, I don't know, it's going to stick with me.
Me too.
It reminds you that there's always more to the story.
Yeah, layers.
And we gotta think about these issues
Engage with them.
in a smart way and with empathy, right?
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, I think that's our deep dive
Yeah.
into this whole case.
It's been a journey.
But as the story keeps going, we'll be watching. And in the meantime, stay curious, stay informed.
Keep asking those tough questions.
Exactly. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive. Signing off.
Thanks for joining us on today's deep dive into this topic. The conversation doesn't end here. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts or insights? Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful. Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Subscribe for more news and in-depth analysis. Stay informed, stay engaged. This is Global Insight News. Until next time, take care.